Welcome to another episode of Greater Bridgewater. I'm your host, Myles Heger, and in this episode, we get to have a good conversation with a guy that is probably pretty familiar, not only around East Bridgewater, but if you're a local sports fan. We're glad to be joined by former Red Sox pitcher and now NESN analyst, Manny Delcarmen. Manny?
How you doing, bud?
Pleasure to have you, and
Thanks,
looking forward to this. Obviously, you've kind of been around town now for quite a few years, even when you were playing. First off, let's start. What brought you to East Bridgewater?
That's funny. I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. Always good to, have friends like yourself, which I met a long time ago, and having me here is an honor. I have buddies of mine that grew up, in Rockland area, South Shore area, and we just kind of happened to be looking for houses around the same time, and he's the one that actually told me about East Bridgewater, because I still tell people today that I live in East Bridgewater, and they're like, where is that? But it's a, awesome town, quiet. My family loves it, and, I'm enjoying it.
Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about not only your baseball career, but baseball in general, and kind of the role you've transferred into now. Obviously, it's been 5-6 years I've known you, since Pawtucket, and rolling through with Norfolk and Syracuse. But let's talk about you, and obviously you were drafted by the Red Sox in 2000. What led you to baseball? High school experiences. Why baseball?
For me, it's always we're a baseball family. I mean, my brother played baseball. My dad can tell you that my sister was the best out of all three of us, and she was a girl. But it's, my dad played with the Phillies in the 70s. Like as a kid, me and my brother, we always followed my dad from park to park. If there was a baseball and he left his glove on the field, I was taking his glove. I mean, people always knew that I had something special, and I give a lot of credit to my dad. I mean, he was a shortstop in his time, not a pitcher, but we were always a good baseball family, and I always wanted to follow in his footsteps and, and make it further than he did.
So 2000, Red Sox draft you in the second round. What do you remember about not only draft day, but, the weeks that followed and, the road that you took?
It was cool. I mean, it was, having all these scouts at my high school games, was pretty exciting. I mean, for me, I always saw it as an opportunity, not only for myself, but for other guys that I played with, close friends of mine from high school. I was like, oh, this is a chance for everybody to get looked at, So all the attention in the city and having scouts at the games was pretty cool. Boston, the Red Sox taking me in the second round was, beyond my dreams. I just wanted to get drafted, get drafted by the Red Sox, and for those two things to happen was, at the same time was pretty good. And when I got that phone call, my phone was going crazy that morning. I was getting calls like, hey, when's the draft going to start? Who's going to take you? I was like, dude, I got to wait. I don't know who's going to take me. So the phone was ringing so much, I actually got fed up with it, and I ended up just taking to go eat in the morning, and I took off, and next thing I know, I show up, and I had already gotten drafted, and I didn't even know who drafted me, so it was pretty cool.
Funny, you talk about 2000, you think of technology back then. Not what we have nowadays where everybody's got a computer, right at their hip and in their pocket. So obviously, something like that, you're not finding out until a couple hours later that you're drafted. I mean, it must have been a surprise, exciting. What was it like to get drafted and find out, even though it was a little after it had happened?
I mean, for me, it was, it was pretty cool because, like I said, I went to go eat, and then I'm like, I think it's about time for me to go home. I think there's going to be people at the house because we had, like a barbecue and people coming over. Like you see on TV today, like the family's hanging out, waiting for that phone call, whether it's baseball, football, whatever it is. And so when I'm parking on my street in Hyde Park on Sunnyside, there's no parking anywhere. I see all these big camera TV crews everywhere, and I'm like, oh, my God, I missed my own draft. Like, I don't know who drafted me. I have this big summer straw hat. Like, my hair's a mess. And I pull up, and I see my mom walking out of the door, and I can see her crying, and she's like, Boston took you in the second round. So obviously, as a kid that sat in every section of that park at Fenway, my dreams of like getting drafted happened, and now the next step was try to make it to the big leagues.
So obviously, before you can get to the big leagues, the minor leagues are kind of a stretch. Back then, it was rookie ball in Fort Myers at the old ballpark. And single A, low A, high A, double A, triple A. That's how, for those watching the minor leagues, kind of work. Talk a little bit about that time in the minor leagues from rookie ball up to AAA?
It's the way the game is today is a lot different than it was back then. Obviously, the Red Sox, when I was coming up through the organization, there was a lot of veteran guys, and as a minor league guy coming up, it's a little harder. So and not that you have to put in more work. It was just like you said. I started off in the in the rookie league, and worked my way up to Augusta, Georgia, which was low A, and worked my way to Sarasota, which is in the Florida State League in Florida, and obviously I ended up hurting myself in 2003. Had Tommy John surgery, so that was like the first time that I felt adversity, or like I'll say like a speed bump in my career, thinking that I was this flashy kid from the city. I was like pitcher of the year my rookie ball year, and then I blow my elbow out, and you think your dreams are shattered for for a little bit, and but the organization, the coaching staff, like everybody there, they're like, this is like the new thing. Like everybody gets hurt, people come back. It's just how you respond to the rehab and how quickly you can come back and get back onto the field. So, I took that to heart. And, from Tommy John surgery, they tell you 12 to 18 months. I think I was ready in 10 months. So Banks Sherrington, he was a former, GM of the Red Sox. He was like one of the head minor league guys at the time. And I was on the horn with him every day. Like, I need to get out of Florida. Like, I'm ready. I'm throwing 96 miles an hour. Like, I'm ready, calling him every day. And, it was a test for me, for myself, to see how strong minded I could be to get out of, that situation of having Tommy John surgery. And that being said, I came back better than ever. I was in better shape. The only thing is, after I came back, they made me a reliever. And, it was a big transition. I was a big prospect as a starter. But at that time, we had Jonathan Papelbon was a starter. John Lester was a starter. So we had all these, great rookies coming up as starters as well. And they go, man, if you become a reliever, you'll make it a lot quicker to the big leagues. And in 2005, I started in Double-A as a reliever. And as you know, it was my first year in the big leagues. So was Papelbon, so was, I think, Lester's. And, it was exciting to be able to play with the same guys in the minors and make it to the big leagues. And so my time in Triple-A, like, in Pawtucket was short, but, it was from Double-A to Triple-A and quickly to the big leagues. Nowadays, you got guys going from Double-A, High A, straight to the big leagues because the game's changed a little bit.
Absolutely. You make your major league debut July 26, 2005. What do you remember about that day? Was it a home game? Was it? I remember I believe 2005 was the year Matt Clement got hit in Tampa, right around that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was the exact same game. That was my big league debut. But before that, like my one memory that I tell people and some of my friends, and they laugh about it, I get drafted. I'm in Pawtucket. I think we're going off to Buffalo. Got like a
7-hour Buffalo
8 hour bus drive to Buffalo, and my bags are on the bus already. My parents are in the car, or they're outside, like to say bye. And obviously I'm about to get on the bus, and they call me back into the clubhouse. And for some reason, if your stuff is on the bus already, and they tell you to get off, like something's up.
Something's up.
So, butterflies in my stomach. I don't know what to expect. And, RJ, was our manager at the time, calls me in the office. He goes, oh, you can't leave yet. I'm waiting to hear back from the big leagues. You might be going up. And, so I don't know whether to start crying. I don't know whether to, I'm excited. And sure enough, he gets a call that I'm going to the big leagues. And as soon as I walk outside, my dad, who played in the 70s with the Phillies, he ended up winning a ring in the Peninsula, like an A-ball. Never made it to the big leagues. He was behind Larry Bowa at the time. He goes, don't even tell me, and he starts crying. So my dad started crying, I started crying, and it was like, all the, the bumps on the road, Tommy John, like I even had left shoulder surgery, all that stuff finally came together. And, when you get that call to the big leagues, it's no better feeling.
So you head to Tampa, to the Trop for the debut, come in relief. I believe that you mentioned it's the same game Matt Clement gets hit in the head, so that was a tough one. What do you remember about how were you welcomed into the clubhouse? Who might have welcomed you in? Who was that ambassador of that team in 2005?
The good thing about the Red Sox organization, it's when you're coming up, they kind of they prepare you for any, I would say, situation. Like when it comes to the fans, when it comes to the media, but in spring training, like by then I had already 2 big league camps under my belt, so I knew who was on the team, what guys I knew I was going to be able to click with. And in that Tampa game, like I remember before I left Boston, Delta Airlines lost my bags. They lost I got my personal stuff, but my baseball bag they ended up losing. So I get my big league debut. I don't have none of my baseball stuff in Tampa. So I'm uncomfortable as it is already. So I'm using like Mike Timlin's glove, an extra glove. I'm using somebody else's sneakers, like all this other stuff. And so that game starts, it's like the 5th inning, and all of a sudden I see one of the clubhouse guys come running down and go, "Manny, your stuff's here." So I go in and I change into my stuff, finally feel like myself. And the very next inning, Carl Crawford hits a line drive right off of Matt Clement's head. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm the rookie. I'm the one that's going into this game. But sure enough, they're bringing somebody else because I don't think they want to bring me in that situation. They know I'm nervous already. So I think somebody else went in, finished the inning, and then I think I ended up getting in that game the next inning after that.
So 2005, you play the trip back and forth down 95, Boston to McCoy back to Boston. 2006, kind of a somewhat quiet year for the Red Sox. You get to 2007, kind of a team coming off of a World Series in 2004. The curse had been lifted. They have a team in 07. You got guys like Curt Schilling, Manny Ramirez. You've got a good bullpen, and you're in this time. 44 appearances that year. Let's talk a little bit about 2007 and what culminated in a World Series. What do you remember about 2007 and the season that was?
2007 is definitely special and a big eye-opener for me just because I remember in spring training, probably one of my best springs I ever had. Coming from 2006 and, coming in, I know Timlin got hurt in 06 a little bit, so I had more appearances in 06. And I start the season in Pawtucket in AAA. But I had a really good spring training that year in 07. And, I get the knock or the shoulder tap to go into the office. I'm thinking they're going to tell me I made the team. So obviously they sent me to AAA. Francona goes, "Oh, we're going to go with 3 lefties instead." I don't know what the excuse was, but I didn't make the team. I didn't take that too well. I went down to AAA, like my attitude was really bad. Not that I wasn't working out or trying to stay ready, but I got lazy and my season wasn't going according to plan. And if you remember Craig Hansen was another one that was down there with me. And not that he wasn't working out, but he was struggling as well. And RJ being our manager, I don't know if you remember they call it the massacre of Cinco de Mayo, that me and Craig Hansen blew a 9-run lead in the last inning or something like that. He started it, and I came in, and then they ended up walking me off in Buffalo, but they call it the Cinco de Mayo massacre. After that game, RJ Johnson called both of us in the office, and he goes, "Dude, you guys were the guys that were in the big leagues a year before. You guys are crazy if you think that I'm recommending you guys right now to go up to the big leagues. Like, you must be crazy. Like, you're supposed to be those guys. If somebody gets hurt, if they need an arm, you're supposed to be those guys. And the way you guys are acting right now, especially you, Manny, like my attitude was, I'll admit it, it was bad. I didn't really feel like doing anything because I felt like I should have made the team. And so I put all that aside. I shaved my head. I don't know if you remember. I ended up bigging my head, shaving my head. I showed up the next day. I did like 900 pulls. And then I think I ended up throwing 22 scoreless innings after that and got the call right back to the big league. So it just shows you, like, the smallest thing can really get to you, but it takes a bigger step to get over that hump, and I did it. Like, I ended up shaving my head, changed my attitude, and got me to the big leagues.
2007 playoffs come around. Now, another World Series, obviously, but this time around, you're up in Boston for it. What do you remember about the playoffs in Boston? It was cold that year. Before we go to a break, what do you remember about the 07 World Series?
It's just, for me, it's just the combination of guys trying to reach the same goal. It's a long season. We're away from our families. The ups and downs, the injuries. That year we didn't clinch until like late in the season. Like we clinched with like 5 games left or 4 games. Like it came down to the wire, and but to see the same amount of guys battle and want the same thing and the same goal and to get there, and it started with us clinching the division, and then from there we ended up winning the World Series.
So you're watching Greater Bridgewater. I am your host, Myles Heger, alongside former Red Sox pitcher and big leaguer Manny Delcarmen. Second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about post-Red Sox and your run throughout, culminating the last couple of years, and really kind of how the game's changed and where we're at now. So you're watching Greater Bridgewater on East Bridgewater Community Access Media. We'll be right back.
On the boards out there, guys. This is your territory, Grimson. Do your job. Grimson. Hello? Hi, honey. What? Now? All right. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, sweetheart. Hey, it's my girl. You know, my daughter.
Love. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Greater Bridgewater. I am your host, Myles Heger, alongside East Bridgewater resident and all-around good guy, former Major League Baseball player Manny Delcarmen. Had a great conversation in the first half of the show about the road up to the big leagues, your debut, and time with the Red Sox. Speaking of the 07 World Series, so 08, 09, you spend more time back and forth in Boston before 2010, getting traded to the Colorado Rockies for a minor league player that I ended up getting to know in my time working for the Sox, Chris Balcom-Miller. Brief cup of coffee with Colorado. What do you remember about pitching with them and the time there?
Before that, I mean, it was tough. I mean, obviously being the local boy, dreaming to play with the Red Sox, you know, being with them for so long and then getting traded all the way to the other side of the country, you know, was not easy. But I mean, it was a great organization, the Rockies. A little tough to breathe out there. I'll be honest with you. It took me, I mean, I was there for almost 2 months, and it took me about 2 months to get used to the breathing. But it was, you know, it was a good experience. I mean, the people were nice. The field was awesome. The only thing that I didn't really like was who was the team that we beat in 07? Colorado Rockies. And then I get traded over there, so I have Tulowitzki, Helton, all these guys just, you know, giving me a little bit of hell, I'll say. Since we beat them in 07. But, I mean, it was an unbelievable organization. I mean, I wish it would have turned out a little different. I ended up getting hurt in 2010, my elbow again. And, you know, it was tough for me after that.
So after 2010, after Colorado, you kind of bounce around a little bit, have a brief time with the Mariners, and then you spend some time in AAA with the Texas Rangers. AAA, obviously, you got International League, Pacific Coast League. You're in the Pacific Coast League. You had spent time in the International League before and would spend more time in the IL after. What are some of the differences, you know, travel-wise and between the International League and the Pacific Coast League?
Well, for me, I mean, most of my career was with the Red Sox. So in Pawtucket, we had R.J. Johnson, which he never liked flying. So it could be a 75-hour bus ride, and he'd rather take a bus ride than fly, 6 hours or 5 hours or whatever it was. But the PCL, I mean, with the Mariners and playing like that way on that coast was, you know, Seattle, they made us wear suits all the time, which I'm like, we're in AAA, we don't need to be wearing suits, especially waking up at 4 in the morning to take a 6 o'clock flight for a connecting flight and all this stuff. But it's, it's two different animals. Like either, and I didn't mind the buses because we got to play cards and hang out, and I think you bond a little bit more instead of just sitting on a plane and falling asleep. But for the most part, it was just, the travel was a little bit easier in the PCL. The only bad thing is there was a lot of casinos everywhere too.
Right. So obviously casinos, we know, spending money.
They can be trouble.
Absolutely. So after your time with Texas, you do something I'm sure back when you were in high school you didn't think would happen. You end up signing and going to play for the Yankees.
That was tough. I mean, but going back to Texas, I mean, it was the first time, Texas, after I left Seattle, Texas called me a lot. Like, they wanted me to go over there, Round Rock. It was really hot over there, and I was still coming back from my elbow injury that I had. So it was, because once I left Boston, went to Colorado, I hurt my elbow again and lost my velo for a little while. But I went to see Dr. Andrews, which did my elbow before, to make sure. He told me that I was going to be okay. So I ended up going to Round Rock, and I don't know if it was because of the heat. I just started throwing hard again. I mean, my ball was still a little flat, but my velo was slowly picking up again. And then, like you said, I go to the dark side for the next year, which I lost a lot of friends here in Boston. But it was, I told my buddies, I'm like, dude, if you're going to give me a job, I won't go sign for the Yankees. But, I mean, I have to go somewhere.
So, kind of gets interesting, as we mentioned travel in AAA. You signed with the Yankees. Scranton Wilkes-Barre, their AAA team, is in the process of rebuilding their stadium. You're there with them that season, and you do not have a home ballpark. You guys are on the road almost the whole season. It wasn't easy for you guys, and it wasn't easy for clubbies and the staff that go with it. But you guys have a decent year, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012, and you had a decent year, with AAA. You never got to the bigs, but all in all, it was an experience. What do you remember from that season in Scranton, or on the road with Scranton and the team you had?
Like, I'm always up for adversity. As a pitcher, we're competitors. We're, that base is loaded. You need that one out, that one strikeout, that one pitch away, whatever it may be. But that was a tough year. I'm not going to lie. That was the one year that I looked at my wife and I was like, I think I want to quit. Like, not having a home field. Everywhere we played, we got booed. It was like, except, we were based out of Rochester, so we split with the Twins, which was, it was okay. But if we were the home team, we got booed, and if we were the away team against the Twins, or we just got booed, it didn't matter where we played. We came to Pawtucket as the home team and Pawtucket as the away team. So, it was a really tough year, and that was the first year that I was like, man, you know what? I really don't want to play anymore. But it was tough, but it wasn't only tough on me. It was tough on everybody, like you said. It was tough on the clubbies. It was tough. The only good thing is they gave us a little bit more meal money because we were on the road.
Right.
But, minor league meal money ain't that much anyway, so it's, it was tough. But for the most part, we had a really good year. We made it work. And I don't know if you remember, but signing with the Yankees that year, I was in big league camp with them. I actually got my elbow, my velo back. And obviously, I was always a pitcher that threw really hard. And I had a really good changeup. And toward my end days with Boston, I was struggling against righties. So Yankees told me, dude, if you come in here throwing as hard as you do with that changeup and you can get righties out in spring, you're going to be one of the guys that we want in this bullpen. And, the spring training comes around. We're doing the workouts. We're running. We're, doing whatever we have to do to get ready for the season. You know how it is. We throw bullpens. We throw live BP. My second live BP, I'm facing Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, Eric Chavez. These are guys that I've faced my whole career, that I'm like, so I'm you just want to throw BP, but when you see guys that you faced before, you kind of want to, you just don't want to throw it in and let them hit it to get your work in. So, I'm throwing my normal routine, I'm throwing, and I end up tearing my lat in spring training with the Yankees that year. And I missed all of spring training, and obviously by the time I came back, I think I threw in the last game of spring training, still throwing like 95, but I'm not going to make the team that way. I go to AAA, and then end up, and like you said, we end up having a really good year in AAA. We make the playoffs that year, and I think we end up losing to Pawtucket.
Yes, 2012.
Yeah.
One ring that I have that I don't have here. But so you mentioned Scranton. We've mentioned RJ. Talk about baseball managers. You go from Dave Miley with the Yankees to RJ back in 2013. You go to the Orioles organization. First off, for those who don't know who RJ is, guy's a charismatic, just all-around fun guy, and you have baseball knowledge back-to-back years with Dave Miley and then RJ. Tell us a little bit about your time spent not only with RJ but Mike Griffin, because two class guys and two baseball minds.
Yeah, they were definitely my favorite coaches in the minor leagues with the Red Sox. Like Griff just loved his pitchers. Like, he would die for his pitchers. He would back up every single pitcher, whether it was good or bad. He really, really cared about, obviously our stats, but mostly how we react to adversity, or if we just had a bad outing or just a bad stretch, like that bad stretch that I talked in the first segment about how I changed my whole attitude and shaved my head and all that. If it wasn't for Griff, Griff was a really big part of that, RJ as well. And you mentioned the Orioles, but I go to the Orioles in Norfolk, and my manager and pitching coach there again is Ron Johnson and Griff. So it was actually pretty cool. And
it was always fun because, again, I start in Pawtucket in 09. RJ's the manager there, and RJ and I always hit it off. We always loved talking music and sport, horses. Top-notch guy. So after Norfolk in 13, you spend a little time with Syracuse, the Nationals AAA team. You have a good season there. Clinch in Pawtucket in the playoffs, and to get into the playoffs, destroy the clubhouse. That was a great team. One of my favorite teams to roll through was Syracuse in 14. You guys just had an all-around good team. The final couple seasons, of you pitching between Syracuse and then going elsewhere, what do you remember about the last couple of seasons before unofficially really retiring?
Yeah, it was, it wasn't easy. I mean, like you said, that 1 year, which was, I think it was 15, right?
Yes, it was 15.
It was 15 with what I had a really good year in the minors with Syracuse. I mean, the Nationals organization, I mean, you could always tell, I mean, you have Harper down there. You have all these guys that they're this close in the big leagues to being a really good team. And again, I went to spring training, had really good spring trainings and big league camp both years, actually. And then, but to be in the minors with this team, in that year in 15, it was kind of tough because they were the best bullpen in baseball in the big leagues. And when that happens, as a veteran guy in the minors, you're just stuck,
Right.
But it was such a good organization, and I've always been a really good clubhouse guy. I always tend to try to help the rookies as much as I can, like the younger guys, and I think that's why I was fortunate enough to have teams give me the opportunity to play for so long. Because if you're a kid that, you have okay numbers, but you're not a good clubhouse guy, like believe me, in this game, it'll kick you out. And I was lucky to play 18 years, whether it was the big leagues or in the minors. And then in 16, I re-signed with the Nationals again, and I was off to the worst start of my career. Like, it was just, as a reliever, I think I gave up 7 runs in 1 outing, and then to bring that ERA down that early in the season is tough. You can't give any more runs for the next 2 or 3 months to get your ERA down. And that's what happened to me. I had 1 really bad outing and slowly started coming back and coming down. And the National, they had a lot of injuries in the big leagues, guys coming off the 60-day. And believe me, like, I think me and the manager and the new pitching coach that was there, I think we almost cried when they told me that they were releasing me because I was, such a good kid and a positive guy in the clubhouse.
So, post-playing career now, and in the final couple of minutes, we'll try to be as quick as we can. You're on Nesson now, pre- and post-game coverage at Fenway, in the studio, but you're also doing something here in town. And it's been entertaining and fun to watch because both of us are doing the same thing post-baseball for a little bit of fun, and that's bartending.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's odd years right there in East Bridgewater, like you said. I mean, I play golf at Ritter Golf Country Club right there all the time. I know the owner Bladar for a long time, and joking around. Like, I mean, I got offers to go to Mexico, Venezuela, the Dominican to go play winter ball, but I'm retired. Like, I'm enjoying my kids. I'm enjoying being home, and I told him really quick, I go, why don't you hire me as a celebrity bartender and see if I can draw you more people and it keeps me busy and I get extra cash to go play golf. And he was all over it, and and there I am. I mean, people having fun. I bring the ring out, talk to them, and people love it.
Boom. Thursday, Friday, Saturdays at Adria's right here in town, right?
Definitely. I'll be there at 4 o'clock. I mean, it doesn't pick up until like 6, but I'll be there if you want to see my ring. Hang out with Myles as well because he comes in a lot and supports me, and it's a good time. Karaoke Saturday nights, too.
Cool. All right, well, that's another episode of Greater Bridgewater in the books. I am Myles Heger for Manny, Delcarmen, and all the staff here at EBCAM. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.